Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to the Business Bear Podcast. It's your buddy Connor Norman here, your business development specialist with Garrett County Government, and I am so excited because we have got a great event here today. Today we're going to be doing a lunch and learn. We are live on the scene at the Chamber of Commerce where we are going over podcasting. Yes, today's going to be all about podcasting and how it can be useful for your business. I've got a lot of guests in the room with me today, so we're going to go around the room and meet all of them. But before we get started, let's go over the rules for the podcast today. Again, today's podcast is sponsored generously by our friends at 3rd Street Diner and Oakmar Hotel. So we thank them for making today possible. And we'd also like to thank Garrett County Government and Garrett County Business Development for help making this podcast a reality. So folks, we're going to kick it off. Remember, the opinions shared by the host and the guests today are their own and do not reflect that of any organizations mentioned. All right, folks, let's kick it off. Welcome today. Are you guys ready for an interesting podcast? Are you guys ready to learn about podcasting?
Yeah.
All right, that's what we want to hear. So we're going to go around the room and learn about who we have with us today, and they're going to tell us a little bit about themselves and about their businesses they'd like to share. Starting over here with Jessica. I'm picking on you today. You're number one, girl. Let's hear about it.
I am Jessica Fike, and I'm a Deep Creek photographer, have been for almost 13 years, photographing mostly the visiting families and the couples who come here to get married.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Up next.
I'm Tira Crawford. I am the real estate sales manager at TaylorMade Deep Creek Sales. We handle real estate sales in the area, mostly around Deep Creek, but also in West Virginia and Pennsylvania. And I've been in the real estate industry for almost 14 years, I think. But it feels like forever.
Yeah.
And additionally, my family and I own Flipside Sounds, a business in Oakland, Maryland, vinyl records, instrument supplies, and record players. And I play music in the area. I like to
Man,
sing.
busy woman. Up next, here's a voice familiar to the Business Bear Podcast.
Hi, I'm Kim Carter, and I'm the founder of Kim Carter Coaching, LLC. I bring coaching to the area, and I believe it's something for Garrett County. And I'm sponsoring an event at the Performing Arts Center, September 14th. And we have 5 coaches that are going to be on stage talking about leadership, talking about connection, how important that is, and how to build teams. So I'm looking forward to seeing all of you there.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Hi, I'm Macy Wells. I consider myself a jack of all trades at this point. I run the social media for the Market on 42. This is my 3rd year doing that. I coach the Manta Ray swim team. 2nd year doing that, which is the youth swim organization for the summer here in Garrett County. I also am actively working with Pop Pop's Path on their Alzheimer's charity walk that's happening in September. More details to come on that. I do a bunch of other things, but I also have a full-time job at WVU Children's in Morgantown.
Wow. All right. Who we got next?
I'm Andrea Kraft. I'm the communications manager at the Allegheny County Chamber of Commerce. So I manage our social media, any communications that go out to the membership. We also launched a podcast this year. So I'm just here to get some insights from another podcaster.
Awesome. So great to have you here. Up next.
I'm Sarah Michael. I'm a Wealth Advisor Associate at First United Bank and Trust in Oakland, helping people with all their financial needs.
I am Trevor Phillips. I am also a Wealth Advisor Associate at First United Bank. I assist with financial planning, retirement planning, as well as estate planning.
Very cool. Welcome.
I'm Cam Gillespie. I own Haley Farm. I've had it for like 31 years. We've had different types of management before, but more recently we're trying to get into wellness retreats. And actually I used to have a YouTube channel which said Cooking with Cam, and I did recipes that we used to serve when we were a bed and breakfast. But now I'm sort of focusing on wellness and microbiome and fermentation. We've got a retreat coming up on August 7th to 9th, and we hope to do them monthly. And I just feel like that's my calling right now.
Very cool. Thanks for sharing.
What up, y'all? I'm Dave Stevens. I'm the Business Development Rep and Marketing Manager for New Way Restoration and Cleaning. I take care of all of their digital media marketing as well as door-to-door commercial sales marketing. I'm also the co-host of Coffee Thoughts with Devin and Dave.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Devin Callis, the owner of 3rd Street Diner, Oakmar Motel, and the Oakland Motel, located in the heart of downtown Oakland. And I am the second better half of Coffee Thoughts with Devin and Dave, as well.
Thanks again, guys. I appreciate having you all here. And today we're going to break down podcasts and in specific how podcasts can be a boon, how it can be an asset to your business, how the podcast world is growing. And we're going to break down some of the numbers here, general equipment that you're going to need, anything that you have questions about throughout the program. Feel free to stop me. Feel free to ask me. We want to answer any questions because if you have a question, it's possible that somebody listening has a question about it as well. So we're going to kick it off by starting with our agenda here. Let me see if I can grab my clicker. All right. And if this isn't working behind me, you let me know. All right. So we're going to kick it off. We're going to go over an overview of podcasting itself. We're going to break down your basic equipment needs. We're going to follow that with software and hardware needs. We've got distribution and engagement channels, and then we're going to finish up with some things to think about, like in the legal and financial sense, and then we're going to have some questions and answers at the very end. So let's kick this off with our overview and what is a podcast. Again, podcast, you're doing one now. It is become one of the foremost ways of spreading information, imparting news, and of course, in a world of growing advertisements, in a world of growing need for access to information, media channels, podcasting has become a king. It's growing exponentially each year, and it's just become an immense outlet. I think something that has been underutilized in our community, and we're starting to see more and more pop up. But what this is helping is those voices that sometimes are in the background come to the forefront. We found that podcasts are not just helping to sell products. Podcasts aren't just trying to advertise something. Podcasts are capturing a moment in time for preservation. A lot of the times when people are talking and they're sharing their stories, many times we wish we could go back and hear the stories. This is a big year for the country, 250 years, for example. Wouldn't it be cool to go back and have a whole list of podcasts from our forefathers, what they were going through, their struggles, what was on their minds, so things to think about with podcasting is it can be so much more than just a tool to sell things. It can be a tool to, again, preserve something for longevity's sake or preserve something for the future. So there's a lot of ways to think about what podcasting can achieve, but we're really going to dig into how it can be of value to your business. So let's pop over next to the numbers. What is podcast doing out there? If you can look up here, and I've provided the little slides for you as well. Podcasting is growing exponentially. Like I said, in 2025, it was a $23.8 billion industry. It's projected to do somewhere in the neighborhood of $38 billion by 2030. So it's exponentially growing. People are paying attention to podcasts in long commutes. They're paying attention while they're at work or in those quiet moments when they need something to engage their brains. They need something to kind of fill the gap. Podcasts have become incredible ways to not just learn more, but impart more information. So again, people are dialed in. And why is that of value to you? All of you represent different businesses and all of you have different expertise that could be shared with a wider public. And you've got people that want to learn from you, people that want to tap your creative abilities. So this is what podcasts can do for you. Check out some of the numbers there, but these are just some of the number breakdowns on why podcasting is so valuable and why it's a market that we need to start taking advantage of, whether you're creating a podcast yourself or you're looking to advertise with a podcast. Why should you be a part of this industry? I think the numbers speak for themselves. And again, it's a growing industry. It's going to continue to grow. It's not just a trending thing anymore. It has become an everyday part of everyone's life. In the room here, how many people listen to podcasts? That's everybody in the room. For those listening that can't see their hands, we've got a lot of people here, and a lot of the people are listening. They're listening to this podcast and others. They can name probably 3 or 4 up to a dozen. So again, a lot of people are dialed into this industry, and it's something again that we should be looking at and we should be taking advantage of for multiple aspects and reasons. So again, check out the numbers there for anyone that's listening online. Again, it's provided on the screen for you. So be sure to check that out. There's a lot to learn and a lot more to dig into. So again, this is why we need to start taking advantage of this space. This is what a podcast is. Let's break down how we start one. So we're going to begin with essential equipment needs. Now, things that you're going to want to have as you're moving forward. I always like to say your equipment is a matter of preference. A lot of the time people will put a bunch of things in their cart, it adds up, and you look at your cart and you see $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 plus. Podcasting doesn't have to be an expensive thing to begin with. We have some examples in the room here today of microphones, everything from USB microphones to more expensive XLR microphones that need accessories like a soundboard, pop filters, boom arms. These things can all be a matter of preference and taste. So again, essentially what's important about a podcast is the output. So if you have genuinely decent inputs, it's not really going to matter, because especially with some of the software components we're going to be discussing a little later, if you're editing solid and your output product sounds well enough, what you put your voice into really doesn't matter. Some people and experts that'll disagree based on quality, but again, it's a matter of taste.
Is this XLR then? What you're going?
Yes. So what we're using today are XLR microphones. Now, this is a brand called Rode. Now, this is not a commercial for Rode, but I do like this product. These are actually Audio-Technica microphones, and these are what's called condenser microphones. So everywhere in the room, they're 360-degree microphones, and they are powered through this soundboard right here. So the microphones plug into the soundboard, and then they're fed into the computer, which is recording for us now. This right here in front of me is called a USB microphone. Now, this one is particularly a Yeti Blue microphone. It's the same thing. It's 360 degrees. Roughly will run you about $30-$40 on Amazon or wherever you buy microphones. Could find it at Walmart, you can find it at Target. Some of these more specialized microphones you're going to have to go online to find. Rode's got a great website where they have their own versions of these condenser microphones, but these are just some basic things that you're going to want to have. Now, this particular setup will run you anywhere between, with the XLR microphones, the stands, the soundboard itself, you're going to run around $3,000 to $5,000. Again, a standard soundboard like this works fantastic. Now, you can get better if you want. It's just up to the type of quality you want to have. So again, you're going to want to start with your microphones. Do you want a basic microphone or do you want a more advanced microphone? These XLRs, you're going to sound clearer. The quality is going to be a little better. You're going to have a better range. So those microphones are positioned around the room, but I can hear everybody like I'm sitting here having a conversation with you. So those are going to be a little more high quality. This USB microphone is also going to be good, but you're going to have to be a little closer to it. Perhaps it's directional and can only pick you up in right in front of it. So again, it's a matter of your preference. You know, if you want to start a podcast to get the feel for it, get in there and start experimenting with it. If you're not recording, you're not podcasting. So I want you to remember that the most important part is to try everything. Play around with the microphones, play around with the settings, see what you like, because again, you could decide that maybe this isn't for me. I need to save a little more, or I need to invest in better equipment so that I can get a better end product. Some of your basic equipment needs are always going to be your microphones, whether you go with USB or XLR. You're going to want headphones. So at least if you are hosting, I have the headphones on so that I can pick up any background noises, interference, or I can pick up people's specific voices and make sure that they're coming through loud and clear. The last thing I want is by the end of our lunch and learn, I couldn't hear myself or any of you. So we just sat here talking for 45 minutes and then we end up, whoops, now we have to record the whole thing again, and then you all hate me, and that's no fun. So that's something you want to make sure that you're doing. Headphones help you with that, and it also helps you with the audio quality again to make sure that it's to the quality and the standard that you want. You're going to want an environment that is quiet enough. Let me tell you, some of this technology is getting so advanced, especially with the presence of AI. You can hear everything, like Dave drinking that water is loud and clear.
Sorry.
Everyone's laughed, the chair's moving, but AI can go through the program, analyze the sound wave created by that, and remove it. So a lot of people don't know, like every time I'm talking and I breathe in, that breath sound is captured. So a lot of podcasting, you will not believe the back end production that goes into editing down a podcast. Before, we had to go through and we had to identify every single breath sound and remove every single one of them. Because if you have the breath sound, while it sounds authentic, it sounds like you're sitting here having a conversation with me in the room, and some people might prefer that. It can also be extremely annoying if you're going if you hear all that noises while you're trying to listen, because it comes through very loud and distinguished. So that you might want to take out. Again, you can use specific programs to take those out, and especially if you have higher powered microphones like these, you're going to hear everything. I mean, I almost can hear hair growing on our heads. These are so good. So that's going to be something to consider as well on the back end when you're editing. Some other things that'll also help you accessory wise, you're going to need, if you're going the XLR route, you need a soundboard. You can see in the picture behind me here on the screen, or if you're listening, it's going to be on the screen in front of you. That is kind of an example of a standard setup with 4 headphones, 4 microphones, the attached cables, and they have boom arms, pop filters. Boom arm is nice, especially if you have a more intimate setting. It brings the microphone up off the table and helps you adjust it to where you need it. It helps your guests adjust it to where they need it. And if you have things that you need to operate on the table in front of you, or you have notes, it's kind of nice when it's up off the table so you can move around without making too much noise. So boom arms can help with that. Do you need them? No. In the room today, we have desk-mounted stands with the microphones on them that work just as well. Right now, I'm using a microphone stand as a boom arm right now, and that was $20 on Amazon. You know, that works fantastic. Again, it's however you want to set it up and what you're comfortable with. There are people that hold microphones the entire time they're podcasting. So again, it's just up to you and your preference. And then finally, any extras. Pop filters are great. Dave, do you want to give an example of popping sounds? Go ahead and give.
So really, it's like a pop on your, I guess it would be your consonants. So like if you make a p sound or a b, whatever, either one of those are going to make it the microphone pop. So what those filters do is they filter all that out for you. So it's less work on the back end in post-production.
Absolutely. And well said. Dave is very upset with me that I don't have other pop shields for my other microphones in the room here, but I do have one on mine. I'm a little closer to mine, though, so that's something you're going to want.
I feel like you could get paid to just make that sound.
Probably.
You know,
Yeah.
Like shows or movies.
Do like...
There you go.
He's good.
He certainly has a future in that. Well, thank you so much, Dave, for demonstrating for the class here.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure.
So again, that's something else you'll want to look into. Again, it just saves you some work on the back end, because that can be pretty aggravating when you're going through that. Now, speaking of all this editing, speaking of all this recording, we're going to head on next to some of the software and programs that we're going to use in our podcasting experience here. So if we're starting up, the software is just as important as the hardware itself. There are beginner-friendly tools we're going to go over. We're going to talk about some professional tools, and then we'll go over some editing tips here. So first of all, let's talk about the beginner-friendly programs. A lot of people, when they're purchasing computers, whether they be Macs, PCs, typically they come with a more affordable or a free recording software. Some of those can be like GarageBand with Mac or Audacity with PC. These are great tools, but they are not going to be the best. I'll tell you one thing about Audacity. I think it's a good program. It's great at capturing, screen capturing audio. It's great for recording a single session, but when you're podcasting, you have to edit the podcast down. And when you're doing that in Audacity, you have to create separate sound files every time you do that. And then by the time you're done, you might have 900 files that you now have to compress into one single file, and that can be pretty aggravating. However, if you're willing to do that, it's not really an issue. Again, it's just a matter of how much work you want to put into it, but I can tell you, post-production is lengthy. It's going to be 3 times as long as what you took recording. If you have a half-hour podcast session, you're going to spend an hour and a half editing that down, again, to remove all the extra noises, to make it sound professional, because you don't want a sloppy program with a bunch of, papers shifting, bags of chips in the room. Every time I lean back and my chair squeaks. Dave, a great, he could be a sound effects guy as well. There's a future for you in that. These things are important to edit out. Again, it's annoying when you're listening to it. A lot of the podcasts you may listen to, you notice those are all removed. So again, that's just something to think about in your programming. So again, GarageBand and Audacity can be used very well. They tend to be included with most of your PCs, and I should put it out there that you're going to need some sort of processor to do this. You're going to need your MacBook. You're going to need your PC in order to run these programs and to really flesh out a podcast. There are some equipment setups available that will plug into your phone. Now, if you have an Android or if you have a Apple device, you're going to have programs on them as well that can help you with this audio production. But I'll tell you, it's going to be easier if you have a PC or a Mac for editing purposes in the long run. Things to think about. Now,
let's talk on an iPad.
Yeah, an iPad can be done. It's an Apple device. You could record to an Apple device, and it will have GarageBand or some similar program that you can download. But GarageBand, I think, is coming standard with most Apple products right now, so you'll be able to plug your program into that or record directly to that. They do have kind of more portable soundboards and microphone systems now that you can check out from libraries or specific colleges and in places like that. We'll go over some nifty programs locally that can help you get in touch with that equipment, but you can do that to an iPad. As long as you have that processing ability somewhere, you're definitely going to need one of those. Going into the more professional tools that you can use, there are great programs, sticking with Mac and PC at the moment. Some great programs that I'll use examples of are like Adobe Audition. Right now, our program is being recorded on Adobe Audition. Now, that's definitely going to be a higher end audio production. You can do everything from editing down to the specific sound wave to modulating the sound to sound different. If I wanted to, I could make a sound like we were talking in the 1930s over those old timey things. I might put that in here just for fun. Or we can modulate the sound to be better. We can bring voices up. We can do things like I said with that AI processing where it can go through and identify those breath sounds and remove them for us. It's a more professional tool. If you guys are subscribed to the Adobe Suite for Photoshop or any of those programs, typically you have access to Adobe Audition. Again, that's specifically for your audio side though. There are other great programs out there too, like Logic is another one for the Macs. That is a spectacular program. I've used it before. Again, it's down to preference because there's some great audio editing processes out there. Or processors out there rather. So go and check them out. See which one you like. I've listed some of them there. You can see their logos and their names on the screen in front of you, or if you guys are in the room behind me on your handouts. Those are some other programs that are great audio processors that might be good for you. So check them out. Again, my preference is Adobe Audition. This is not a commercial for them. I just like it because that's the first one I started using. So I use that in radio. I use that in podcasting. I use it for commercial production. Those are some things you'll want to look into. Editing tips, that background noise is an important piece. If you don't have a quiet room, you're going to want to try to insulate your room as well as possible. It's not always possible. You're always going to have some stuff back there. But I promise you, when you edit this stuff down, you would be amazed at how much the brain does not process those background noises when you're listening over speakers or over headphones. It's really, if you're dialed in, if you have these real high-end audiophile headphones, sometimes you pick up some of that background noise, but if you're listening while you're traveling in your car, while you're listening at work, half the time you really don't hear what's going on in the background. So if you hear a truck go by, if you really listen to the Business Bear podcast all the time, you will hear me, maybe I missed some breath sounds. You will hear a fire engine going off. My studio is literally attached to a police station, so you'll hear emergency vehicles going by. You'll hear people revving their engines. And we do it. our best to take those out, but sometimes they don't always come through. And half the time when you're listening to the episode, your brain does not even register them as there. So don't be too hard on yourself, and don't try to remove every single bit of that sound, because again, a lot of the times it won't be mentally processable in the final product. So just some things to think about there. And then again, it's based on your program, but try to make your levels even across the board so that it doesn't sound like I'm talking louder than you guys throughout. One of the most annoying things in a podcast is when the host is super loud, but the guest is super quiet because they didn't bring that voice up. Now, voice processing programs like Adobe, Logic, and others will help you bring that voice up. Audacity's not really equipped to do that, at least not to my knowledge. You can dig into that more and see if that is the case. GarageBand probably gives you the ability to bring a voice up, but try to keep things as even keel as possible across the board. Again, just for a better end quality thing. You don't have to have the best equipment to do that. As long as it sounds good at the end, who cares how you did that? If you are transitioning to different bits, try not to make it sound like it's abruptly ending. When you're editing something down and you really don't like a spot, try to be as smooth editing that as possible, because the last thing you want is something to sound choppy, like I clearly edited a piece out. It sticks out in your brain as soon as you hear it. You guys have all heard that before on a podcast or any type of recording. When somebody's abruptly edited something out, you can go, caught you. That's where you obviously you didn't like what they said there, or you messed up and I caught you. I don't know what you said, but it definitely happened right there. So being as smooth in that editing process as possible is definitely what you want to try to achieve.
I don't know if you've heard Amy Poehler, but she won the first Golden Globe for a podcast that was ever given out, The Good Hang. Anyway, her transitions are like do, you know, like a little music thing.
That's a good point to bring up. There are some podcasts that have specific sounders or noises that help with that transition, and it makes it more smooth, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So again, just think about that in your editing process. These are some great processors, but feel free to do some research and look at others. These are just my opinions on what I like to use. There's no you have to use these things. Podcasting doesn't have to be cost prohibitive, but it can be if you really want to up the quality and obtain the right equipment and programs. And the personal level of Adobe Edition can be expensive. You know, it's a monthly fee or it's a yearly fee. And if it's for a business, they've got a specific cost to that. So again, those are just some things you want to be looking out for. So we've identified our equipment. We've identified our programs. We kind of know a basic editing style. We've finally put this thing together. Now it's time to get it out in front of people, and there's a lot of ways that you can do that. Most importantly is deciding how you want that to go out. There's very cost-effective ways, there's very expensive ways, and it all depends on the type of financing and investment you want to put into the podcast, how little. There's always a cheap version of doing a podcast, I like to say. If you record everything down, there's always, you can do an audio component or you can do a video component. We have found that podcasts that have video components tend to do better. Again, you can add a video component, but remember, as you're editing the audio, it needs to match up with your video as well. Because if you start even a second, if you get that video off because your audio is now edited down and your video was not, you're going to be out of sync and people are going to notice that right away. It's not going to look clever. So make sure you're trying to edit the video at the same exact moments that you're editing your audio, because if you upload both and then of course you're out of sync with yourself, it just, I mean, is it the end of the world? No, it just looks silly. A lot of podcasters, a cheap way to do that is they always cover their mouths. So they have the microphone here in front of their mouth. Guess what? If I have to edit this down, nobody's going to know if in tune with myself, unless I've got like a piece of paper I'm holding up at a specific moment and referencing something. If I just have a plain background and it's me in front of the microphone, block your mouth. Again, so that way if you edit the audio, you don't have to go through the pain of editing that video as well. Again, it's just a cheap kind of workaround. The videographers, maybe Dave will have a problem with me saying that, but again, whatever it's easy, whatever works.
I don't have a problem with it if it works.
Yeah, there we go. As long as the end products look good. But he's a videographer professional, so we might have to have him do a lunch and learn down the line. We've created our podcast. We're ready to start putting it out there. Some things to consider: you can do a cheaper alternative, like uploading your podcast to YouTube, and then from YouTube you can disseminate it to your social media channels. We take advantage of that. Obviously, YouTube accounts are free to sign up for, so you can upload your podcast to that program, and then you can share the videos on every social media channel you have. Some things to remember with podcasting is content and regularity are king in this industry. So if you are putting out a podcast, you want to make sure that you have interactive content to accompany it, or you're constantly making references back to your episodes, and you want to be consistent. Consistency is key, and we'll cover that a little later. But if you're putting it out there, some things that you're definitely going to want are platform to disseminate your podcast. Now, there are popular ones. You can put it on Apple Podcasts. You can sign up for a Spotify account and do it there. You can also go through what's called an RSS feed. Now, RSS feeds are programs that you can upload your podcast to, and it will automatically disseminate it out to everywhere your RSS feed is programmed to send it. So you can tie in your Apple podcasting, your Spotify, your website. You can do social media channels. Wherever it's programmed to plug into, it will go to. There are great programs like Buzzsprout, Anchor. There are so many more. I've listed some examples. They're on the screen. They're on your presentations in front of you guys. If you want to start looking into those, again, a matter of your preference. Buzzsprout has a free introductory one. That's what I use. That will put out your latest episode. So it doesn't keep a catalog of all that you have, but it will keep your latest episode on there so you can upload it to your RSS feed. And right now we have it programmed to go to Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So you can include more for yourself, and you can pay for higher tiers so that it keeps catalogs of your episodes. Again, totally up to you if you want to do that.
So you're paying for the Apple and the Spotify?
So the Apple and the Spotify programs are free to sign up for. Mm-hmm. So there's specific Apple Podcasts, for example, profile you can create, and then you have a little control there. You're not so dependent on RSS feeds like you used to be. Like you can go into Apple now, create your account, and exclusively upload your episodes to Apple Podcast. It'll keep a catalog of your stuff. It'll keep all of your podcasts in one place.
But it won't promote them.
So it won't promote them. You can pay for that promotion. It's somewhere, if you want to use them exclusively, you can. So that's like a profile specific. Mm-hmm. Now, the advantage of an RSS feed is you can get multiple programs plugged in. But if you wanted to go with just one specifically, you can also do that. So things to think about, again, it's all down to that matter of preference and where you want to connect with your audience. Take a look at those. A lot of those programs are really great. They're easy. They have user interfaces that are awesome. Buzzsprout and Anchor and I think like TuneIn, they have some great editing programs on the back end that can help you with some audio processing as well. They're not 100% intuitive, but they do work very well. Those are things you can look into as well when you're looking at the production angle. Before we head into like the legal and financial things to consider, when you're doing a podcast, is important to understand where your customers or where your listeners are going to come from. Some of you have excellent built-in audiences. So you have an industry or you have a vocation, you have something that is naturally interesting that people are going to want to tune in to learn more about. Everyone in this room has something very interesting, from health tips to music, restaurant angles like recipes, community outreach, what you guys do with the Devin and Dave program. Those are naturally interesting. People want to tune in and learn more. You guys could grow that into an incredible podcast and just talk about local events, local affairs, add some comedy elements into it, some culinary elements, whatever you want to do. Find your natural built-in audience for your podcast. So we had, for example, a medical system that wanted to start a podcast. They're naturally going to have a built-in audience with people that are naturally curious about the medical industry and what's happening. They want to keep up with their doctors. They want to keep up with advancements in the medical field. They want to keep up with maybe changing regulations or rules. So it's important to identify where are my listeners going to be naturally coming from and then kind of build around that. I always encourage people to go after new listeners, but then you're going to come back into, all right, well, if I want to start attracting a new audience, are they going to appreciate my content? How do I get them interested in learning about what I have to say? That's where you can start doing advertisements. That's where you can start doing all of these things that will help you, again, grow that audience naturally. Let's talk about the legal aspect behind this. Podcast, you are putting your voice out in the world. There's only so much the First Amendment is going to protect you from. Now, if you are on a podcast, remember you are not immune just because of the First Amendment. People can sue for anything. People can have a problem with what you have to say. Maybe the way you edited a program made somebody feel really stupid. Maybe the way you edited a program made something sound maybe not the way someone would have liked to have heard it. Or maybe you edited something down and you thought it sounded great, but it made your business sound like it does something it doesn't. Again, it's all a matter of perception and where your customers are. So you need to protect yourself legally. I am not a legal professional, but I can always recommend you guys go talk to one and consider things like release forms. Include disclaimers. I work for a government entity. We represent all of the constituents in our community. We want to make sure that any opinions I share are not reflective of that on Garrett County government or Garrett County business development, because they're not. They're my personal opinion. Somebody could really have a problem with the fact that I like Adobe Edition over Logic or some of the other programs. That doesn't represent the agency. That represents my personal opinion. So include these disclaimers in, like, all of you signed releases today. Those are important things to think about because, again, you don't realize how these things can spiral out of control quickly. So just, again, make sure you're protecting yourself and being very safe in the process, especially if you're looking to monetize your program. Again, consult a legal professional about contracts, about proper taxes, withholdings, all that stuff. Again, podcasting can be a business and it can be important for your business. And many times, even creating its own entity for the podcast itself is wise. That way it's not tied directly to your business or entity or you personally. Just some things to think about. Now, if you have a strong legal department, they can draw up a very generic release that works very well. But again, consult legal professionals for help on that. Make sure your content is consistent, whether you're putting it out monthly, whether you're putting out weekly, or even if you are staggering the release of your podcast, make sure that you're at least consistent in some way. We often call the Business Bear podcast a podcast in perpetuity. We encourage people to constantly follow along because sometimes I've got an episode a week. Sometimes it's 2 weeks before I release an episode. Again, it just depends on when business owners or officials are available to come in and talk about podcasting or to talk about their agency. When you're releasing, try to be consistent. If you make a commitment for a weekly release, just keep in mind it's going to be a lot of recording. It's going to be a lot of production on the back end. So keep those things in mind. Once you get up and started, once you get comfortable, this will become easier and easier and easier. You'll feel more comfortable in the editing process. You'll know what to look for. So again, just keep those things in mind as you're releasing a podcast, because if you're inconsistent, you're going to lose your listeners fast. That content is king. When you're not releasing an episode, build some content around pushing up the episode in the podcast. Do clips of your podcast if there's a funny moment or if there's a smart moment. I don't have either of those in my podcast, so unfortunately I wouldn't be able to do that. But do fun screenshots, build some content around it that engages your listeners so that they're constantly checking in with you guys. We've covered the bases here. We made sure that, again, the equipment is solid, production and software are solid. We've talked over being consistent with our content and continuous with our content. Like I said at the very beginning of this podcast, just get out there and start doing it. Have some fun. You are going to develop your voice. You are going to develop what your program is going to be. And once you connect with your audience, once you connect with your expertise, it's going to be easy. Just put stuff out there, play around with it, experiment. This is all recorded today, so all of the little funny nuanced moments where I'm screwing up with the clicker here, you'll never hear. When you guys go back and listen to this. You guys are going to sound very well. Your voices are going to be brought up. You're going to be sounding like you've been doing this forever. All of you sound very good naturally. This is going to be a reflection of that. You're not going to sound stupid here. You're going to sound like you've been doing this a long time. So again, for those that this is your first podcast, congratulations. You've just done your first episode. And I want to hear your podcast. I want to see you guys doing it more. For anyone listening that wants to start a podcast, we want to hear your voices, especially in communities like ours where there's so much going on and so much to say. There are great podcasts out there that are capturing these moments in time for our community, but there's also misconceptions out there about businesses, about people, about events, things that are happening. These podcasts help connect you with an audience so that you can clarify a message. So that's, I think, one of the most valuable takeaways from this. And with that, I am going to kind of close and wrap us up here, put it up for questions. Yes.
Oh, okay. So the scary part to me is the editing part.
Okay.
Because I think I'm fine talking, etc. But then doing the back end is what seems prohibitive to me right now.
Mm-hmm. So
I don't know, how can I learn that process?
So there are some great local resources I think you can start taking advantage of to learn this. One thing I did not mention is if you're looking for equipment programs, sometimes there are local resources available to put you in touch like that. So for example, up in Frostburg, and I think you guys use it at the Allegheny County Chamber, there's something called the 3-State Media Center at Frostburg College. It is a spectacular program where they have everything you need. They have the equipment, they have the room, they have the processing programs, they have everything A to Z that you would need to create an effective and efficient podcast. You can absolutely reserve it. I think there's a yearly fee or a monthly fee. It's very affordable. I think it's like $50 for the year or something like that. Now it's a little more than that, but okay, so I'll correct myself and say there is a fee. I don't know what it is, but it's affordable, and they have not just access to the equipment, but access to people that will help you learn the programs and learn the editing.
Really? Maybe that's a good place to start then.
Absolutely. Our local library has some podcast equipment that you can rent out. Microphones, they have a soundboard.
They do?
Absolutely. You can go to the Ruth Ellen Library and rent that stuff out. I recommend you.
Sorry, they have them in Allegheny County too.
There we go. We have them next door in Allegheny County.
And if you want to talk to someone at the 3-State Media Center, you'd want to reach out to Dr. John Lombardi. His email is Lombardi, so JLOMBARDI at frostburg.edu.
DI.
Awesome. Can we get that contact information one more time?
Sure. His name's Dr. John Lombardi. His email address is JLOMBARDI at frostburg.edu.
And again, that's the 3-State Media Center, access to all that podcasting equipment we talked about. And it's also got a full television studio. That place is incredible, what they have access to and what you can take advantage of there. So at Ruth Ellen Library here in Oakland, you'll be able to find some equipment there that you can rent out. And I encourage anyone that's listening, you probably have some local programs that are doing something similar. Check in with your colleges and libraries. There's some great resources available out there. But locally here, we've got our library system. We've got the 3-State Media Center, which are great. They have awesome websites. I encourage you to look them up.
I'd like to add to that.
Yeah, go ahead.
So obviously there's local resources you can pull from to learn. But if you're somebody that's just like, you don't have the time for post-production, or you're just not great at it, like you've tried, you struggled, and it's just not your strong suit, something that I do for our post-production, and I believe, Devin, you also do some of this yourself. We have editors that we can send for a fee, a nominal fee. You send all of like your raw footage or your raw audio files. They can do post-production things for you while you do like quality control.
Fiverr for that?
You could do like Fiverr. I don't know how great of a content, quality you would get out of Fiverr, but something like that. There's also something called VAs, virtual assistants, that you can hire online. My company has got some from, not an ad here, but for Rocket Sphere, they have limitless resources to pull from online. So
And to be
Awesome.
honest, it's really not hard.
It's not.
Editing a podcast. I just learned how to edit a podcast in March. I had to figure it out and do it all by myself. Julie, our president and CEO, she hosts the show, but I do everything else.
How long are your podcasts?
Well, they were supposed to be 28 minutes, and they are all triple that. They're all about 40 minutes to an hour.
You don't think that's prohibitive for people to want to look at something that long?
Not necessarily. We have podcasts that are 15 minutes long, podcasts that are 3 hours long. If you've got some interesting content, feel free to share. Like when we do podcasts, and you guys are probably the same, we encourage those long-winded answers. You'd rather have more than less.
We do a questionnaire that we send to them, like an interest form. So I reach out to our members. I just randomly pick off of our list. They fill out a form with things that they want to talk about, and we build, for lack of a better word, a script. And then we just talk about their questions. We have a few other little things that we
Maybe
add
have a
in.
little agenda and then go through it.
And sometimes that goes for 20 minutes. Sometimes it's a lot.
But you don't have to fit it into a particular time. You can
No.
you can be flexible. Yeah. Okay.
The episode that we just launched or that just went live on Wednesday, it started out at 109 minutes, and after editing it was down to I think 47.
And it's going through what? Apple?
We use Transistor, so it is RSS. It sends it out to everywhere. So I mean, really, we're on over 20 platforms.
Yeah, Transistor's a great program as well. A lot of people use that. That, Anchor, Buzzsprout, they're all simple to use programs.
But John is great. He taught me how to do it. I had like one session with him. It was maybe a couple hours, and then he sat with us for a few episodes just to make sure that I didn't break anything.
This is at the university. Okay.
Any other questions or inputs out there? This is spectacular. I love this. If you want to throw in any extra resources, feel free to do that.
Podcasting doesn't have to be expensive. Like we went over several different equipments. I started with this right here. For people that are listening, it's a cell phone. Everybody has a camera in their back pocket. If you have an iPhone or an Android anymore, they're pretty excellent cameras on your cell phone. And then for like audio, you can get small package audio devices. DJI, not an ad, but DJIs are a quick and easy option for condenser mics that are on the go. You can use those just about anywhere. I have them with me in my car right now. We use them all the time for any of my podcasts, for Standing Waters podcast, anything for New Way or Devin and Dave. We even use the same kind of equipment. So definitely just be encouraged to try new things. Go out and do it with what you got. You don't have to spend all kinds of money to get started.
Perfect. Testimonial right there. This is such a new field, and it's developing more and more every year. There's new and interesting ways to use technology to capture a podcast. So just because it's done certain ways doesn't mean there aren't new, interesting ways to do it. So I encourage you, like Dave said, like we've been saying through this episode, it's a matter of taste, and just go out there and start doing it. And I promise you, it will pay dividends, whether it increases your attention or the spotlight on your business, or whether it tracks, future investment in other ways. Podcasting is certainly the future. It's not just a trend. I think it's here to stay, and it's only going to be a growing industry. So whether you're involved with it, you're paying for advertising through it, if you're involved with podcasting some way, I highly encourage it. It is a benefit for your business overall. And with that, I think we're going to bring this episode to an end. Thank you all so much for your participation today. Again, another shout out to 3rd Street Diner and Oakmar Hotel for sponsoring today's event. Again, this Lunch and Learn we've been hosting at the Garrett County Chamber of Commerce. Happy again to have all of our guests here and everyone listening online. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Business Bear podcast. Folks, it's Connor Norman here, and we'll see you on the other side.